Welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show on 94.7 The Pulse. Music, interviews, news, and, well, Two Blokes Chatting. Now, here are the two blokes.
I tell you what, Rob, when your name is something like Kylie or Madonna, or as we found last week, Martika, you've got to be really good to be just have one name and people know who you are, which is why you and I have surnames. But this person does have a surname, but doesn't need it because we all know who she is. Paulini, welcome to the Two Blokes Chatting radio show.
Thank you for having me, guys.
That's okay. Sorry we're a week late, but, you know, the technology beat us last week.
No, I'm very sorry. Apologies for that.
Oh, well, it happens, doesn't it? Thanks for joining us. It's very exciting to have you on board. We've got a few things to talk about. I guess the best thing to do is sort of go back to where it all started. I guess the first time we really heard much about you was Australian Idol Series 1, was I right?
Yeah, that's right.
And that's just a lazy 16 or 17 years ago, 18?
Oh, so long ago. I feel very old, but you know, that's pretty much where it all started for me. I mean, if I do kind of go back, I basically started when I started singing in church, and my family are all quite musical, and my dad was a choir master. But yeah, I basically started getting involved in like concerts and all that type of stuff, like talent quest in school, all of that, jazz, and basically auditioned for Idol, and got a record deal after that, and it's been great since.
Paulini, let's go back to how the Idol thing works. A concept is obviously international, first time in Australia though. How did they find contestants for the show? How did you get the bug to go?
I basically, so I was watching TV one day, and the ad came up, and they said, they were auditioning people, and if you wanted to try out, if you thought you had the talent, come in. And I thought about it. I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I remember that day I went into a recording session with a producer and a friend of mine. He's a bass player, and I said to him, I go, do you think I should try it for Idol? And he was like, yeah, like Marsha Hines is one of the judges, and he and Marsha Hines are really good friends. He plays in Marsha's band, and he's like, oh my God, I'm going to tell Marsha that you're going to come in, and just to kind of give you a bit of just support while you're auditioning. And yeah, that's pretty much how I turned up one day, lined up for like the whole day. It was pretty. I remember like just standing there, waiting with everyone else in line, and basically got into the studio, and Marsha was there, and she was like, "Hey, how are you?" And I know Victor Rounds, who is my bassist, and yeah, he told me that you were coming in, and that was pretty much it. That was my audition process.
Because you've basically got 2 minutes. You've stood in line for 7 hours. You've got 2 minutes to basically impress them.
Yes.
I mean, I just think that takes enormous guts. There's only one thing that stopped me going on, and that is I can't sing. That played a fairly significant part in that decision, but I don't think I could have the guts to get up and do it.
Yeah, it's like, for me, I feel like, singing is it's such a natural thing for me, because I've been doing it, since I was a child. But it's, for me, what I struggle with is like talking about myself and the promoting of myself. That's kind of more stuff that I'm uncomfortable with. But the singing, I kind of was like, okay, I'm just gonna sing, and they either like me or not, So that's what I did.
That's an interesting segue. I was going to ask about that. You've been successful on the back of that performance, but there were so many others that go in there and aren't. So there's different levels of self-confidence in everyone that steps up to the plate to sing, between someone who thinks they're the next Elvis Presley down to someone who's probably been push through to the door because maybe mummy or daddy thinks they're very good. And
Right.
what comes that way after that from judges, to me, is very important for that person's beyond life. I get a bit frustrated when judges so often say, "Oh, you're magnificent, you're good enough to sing, you should be making recordings," when the reality is that very few people will be able to do that. Is it really brutal on individuals' personal well-being in that type of competition?
Yeah, look, I think there are parts of it that are brutal. Like I remember being on Idol and getting told that I had to find appropriate clothes or shed some pounds.
Yeah. I do remember that. Yeah.
About the gold dress. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be people that criticise you, and there's always going to be negative things that have been said. But I think, one of the important things to remember is that you really have to have people around you that actually are really supportive, because when things like that happen, you need a team around you, and whether it's your family or whoever it is, a good friend or manager, just to kind of like be supportive and give you encouragement after you go through things like that. Because it could really break you if you're not mentally and spiritually prepared for it.
Yeah. The modern concept of the voice seems to show that there is a real connection between the judges and the individuals. Back in your day, how much connection did you have once you got through a certain stage of the competition where you may spent time with Marsha Hines and she did actually give you some teaching, coaching, encouragement?
Yeah, we didn't, to be honest, we didn't have any, there was no time with the judges really for us. I remember we were basically spending, our whole time in the house was, just kind of doing promo for the show and working with the vocal coaches, doing, just interviews and all that type of stuff. But we never really, I didn't have a lot of time to actually get to know the judges. So, I don't know if it's very different now. I'm not sure if The Voice and the other shows kind of, if that's something that they've changed, or if the contestants do spend a lot of time with the judges now. But in our season 1 of Idol, we did not.
It's incredibly disappointing because we thought we had our next 3 weeks of guests lined up on the back of that.
Yeah, that's right.
Here's Marsha's number, here's Mark's number, here's Dicko's number.
Sorry, mate.
That's disappointing.
There seems to be in the modern version of The Voice a real connection, and what it does, it makes it easier for the letdown, if you like, because these artists have spent some time with someone of international credibility who's given their advice and guidance, and they go away from the show with something. To really attach, and that to me looks a much better concept than yours, which was so much, as I said, brutal and cutthroat. Paulini, let's talk beyond. You've finished 4th in that competition, and you've obviously been able to carve out a career. What happened immediately after the show for you? Were you just left alone for a period of time, or was there instant attachment that allowed you to start building your career?
I basically got signed to an agent, and they were kind of connected to the I forget what they were connected to Idol, and so we basically all of the gigs that we got from that agency, we had to. 5 years after that, we had to pay 10% of that. There was a clause in the Idol contract that said that we were still signed to them 5 years after. And we basically had to, every gig that came through that agency, we had to pay 10%. But I was one of the very lucky and blessed ones that I came 4th in the show. I didn't even make the top 3, but I was very lucky to get signed to Sony, and I was signed to them for 5 years, and it was great. I had an amazing time. I got to write with different people and work with different producers, But it's hard, you know. You kind of, when you finish a show like that, you're like, oh, okay, like my career's made. This is great. But no, that's actually when it starts. That's when the hard work kind of starts, is after the show. You've got to sell yourself and promote yourself as much as you can, and meet the right people and be the right places at the right time. So yeah, it's for me, it's been a blessing, really. I can't really complain, you know, on how my journey has been, because it's been a great journey.
I think the other thing is too that you were fortunate / lucky, whatever it is, that you were a part of the first series, in so much as, I mean, we talk names like Guy Sebastian, Shannon Noel, yourself, others, that were in that first series. Quite frankly, I don't know anybody who's been in the recent series of The Voice or any of those sort of things, because they're just another one coming out of a machine. I think the timing for you must have been extraordinarily positive, because
it was insane. Like I had never gone through I'd never walked down the street or gone to the shopping centre and people recognise you. They're like, oh my God, it's Paulini, let's get, can we get a photo? All of those things were things that I've never experienced before, and they were happening, and it was such an amazing time for all of us. And even though it was quite brutal at times, it was so, we learnt so much along the way, and and experienced so many things that you can't buy with money. That's pretty much what I'm trying to say, is that the experience and that journey and the friends and all of the things that happened to us, it's priceless,
Paulina, you might have touched on it before when you mentioned you're not comfortable selling yourself. Your gift is your voice. That's not in dispute. It's beautiful. It was then and still is now. But to be successful, it's about marketing more than just the voice. How difficult or easy have you found that part of your journey, creating an image to match the voice?
It's actually, I feel like as I get older, it's getting more difficult. I get more anxious, talking about myself. It's really weird. It's never really easy for me. I get quite anxious and nervous before an interview, before I have to, with performances, I still get nervous, but it's not the same when I have to kind of promote myself and talk about myself. So, yeah, it's, I feel like it gets harder as I get older. It doesn't get easier. I feel like it's, maybe there's an expectation that I put on myself that I should be better, and that's kind of what makes it harder for me. I'm not sure what it is, but there's also the fact that if you do really care about what you're saying and how you perform, it's great to be nervous and to have a bit of that, and always be ready and to care. I think it's good to have those things, because it shows that an artist cares.
Before we get on to talk about the Eurovision thing, because that's obviously the thing that's coming up on the horizon, a philosophical question that probably the correct answer is, I really don't know, because it's hypothetical. But you look back to the days of the Russell Morrises, the Brian Cadds, those guys in the late 60s, early 70s, and you hear Barnesy say that, you get up on the Largs North Hotel stage, and if you got through a concert without being punched up, you were doing well, and these guys would do 6, 8, 10 performances a week in pubs, and that's how they got known, and that's how they built a following. When you've got 1 million people, 2 million people, 5 million people watching you on TV, to get the profile is probably easier, but then you've got social media that wasn't around those guys. If you had your time again, would you rather have worked your way through 10 performances a week in pubs across Australia, or would you prefer to be on TV and knock it all over in one hit?
I prefer like the 10 performances in pubs. I think that is so much more effective. You actually get to meet the people around you. Your fans actually feel like a real connection with you. I know that, they say, oh my God, I feel like when they watch you on TV, they're like, oh, I feel like I know you. Know. When you actually perform in front of people and you get to meet them and kind of hang out with them after a performance, that's very different. And I feel like I'd love that much a lot more than being on TV.
And again, on that same theme, the next question is staying true to yourself through all this, because we've interviewed those names that Neil was talking about, and I'm amazed at just how incredibly humble they remain. They remember the tough early days. They're appreciative of the people who buy records and pay to watch them perform. Has that been an easy part of your journey to keep the fans very close and remembering your early days?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the youngest of 6, and my brothers and my sisters and my parents always keep me in check, and my friends too. I've got really good friends who are supportive but also tell me the truth. And fans, I love to chat to them. Like on social media. I'm not great at social media, but if I do get like a message or get an email from a fan, or people want to kind of work with me and book me for a gig, I love to kind of chat to them and get to actually know them. I feel like my parents have kind of drilled the just to always be humble and to always, you're not better than anyone else. Everyone has a journey and everyone's going through something, so be kind and also lead with love. So I'm glad that my parents brought me up that way.
Outstanding. Well, we want to talk to you about this. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but the competition that you're about to enter, we're going to play the song called We Are One, which is your latest release, which is going to be part of it. Tell us about this competition and how people can watch and get involved and send you off to wherever Eurovision's going to be.
Yeah, so the competition, so the guys from SBS and Blink TV, pretty much there's a team of them, and they choose 11 artists that they feel to kind of battle out a few songs at the Gold Coast on the 26th of February, and they basically on the 26th of February they just ask everyone to kind of like tune in and vote for whatever artist they think should represent Australia in Italy. So that's basically how it works, and I can't wait. I'm so thrilled and excited to actually. I couldn't even actually believe that they asked me. I had to pinch myself, kind of going, oh my God. I called my manager and I was like, did they actually ask me? Right?
Rob and I were thinking about applying, but again, going back to that concept that we can't sing was the primary reason why not. We're very excited about this concept, and I've got to say the bit about Eurovision, I'm trying to work out where Australia fits into that, but given that we do, that for us to be able to say that hopefully one of our friend of the show now, you are now officially a friend of the Two Blokes Chatting radio show.
Absolutely, yes.
That we might have a representative going off to Eurovision excites us more than we can tell, particularly given that we've now got your phone number, so we'll be able to get you on afterwards to have a chat about it. But that must just be mind-blowing, and we're going to encourage both our listeners to be watching on that night. It's on SBS, you said, on the 26th
of February of this month.
Which is, by my reckoning, next Saturday night.
Yes.
Wow.
Hey, Paul.
Oh, it's very close.
Paulini, on that theme, when you're in that very high pressure situation, song selection, who does that, and how much difference is there from previous experience in doing your own work, your own writings and productions, as opposed to doing covers? With this song We Are One, I didn't write the song. It was written by an amazing songwriter, John Capek and Rick Price. I'm not sure if you guys know Rick Price, but he's been around for so long. And
So when I got the song, it didn't sound anything like what the song sounds like now. We had like a bit of a chat because I wanted to change the lyrics and change the track, and they were totally open to it. But like my whole experience is like with songwriting and just creating. I do enjoy that part and being in the studio and really kind of putting my thoughts on paper. I love that part, and I love creating creating new tunes and new songs. I think it's a lot more. It's a lot more satisfying when you actually do write your own music compared to just coming out with a covers album. Even though I have come out with a covers album, I really do enjoy being in the studio and going through that whole process of coming up with lyrics and the melodic line and just sitting there for hours and days with the producer working on a track and creating. That's really something that I do enjoy over just recording kind of songs that have already been recorded and put out there.
Well, 49 years ago this year, there were 4 people came out of Sweden who only went by their first names. They were Agneta, Anna, Fred, Benny and Bjorn. And they did reasonably well out of Eurovision. We sincerely hope that there's another one-namer turns up representing Australia in Eurovision in 2022 and probably won't have the same level of success as they did because they kind of took on the world. But, gee, I hope you do.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I look, even a quarter of their success would be amazing.
Well, there's only a quarter of you. I mean, there's only 1 out of 4, so why not, I say.
True, yes.
And when you do, don't forget, probably the last interview you did before this Eurovision program was with the Two Blokes Chatting radio show in Geelong, and we want to be taken along for the ride.
I will never forget. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the support.
Paulini, we've loved having you on the program. We're going to go out with the song that you are going to sing next Saturday night. It is called We Are One. It's available I got mine through iTunes. I paid for it that way, so people can do that. Don't just do it on Spotify and stream it, folks, because the money doesn't go back to the artist. Go and spend the $2.19 or whatever it is and buy the song so that the money comes back to the artist as well. Thanks for your time this morning on the Two Blokes Chatting radio show.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Paulini.